Good evening. It's been a while. I'm Alan Osborne. It's 27 February, and I think it's time we had a chat. I'll be joined tonight by my co-host, who I'll allow him to introduce himself, because you ain't gonna believe the stuff we're gonna have to talk about having not seen each other for a while. Take it away.
You're traveling to another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. Your next stop, the Twilight Zone.
That's right, folks. We're gonna have to start off the show with not with local politics, but we'll get to that Twilight Zone. But folks, where are all you Biden supporters out there? I want you to look at this moron behind us. Remember all you liberal people who cheered his great efforts? D is for dumbass, Democrat. D is for divisive. First of all, he pulled us out of Afghanistan and we showed to the whole world we couldn't even keep some people running around in man dresses from hanging off the sides of aircraft at an airport with U.S. Air Force aircraft. We looked like the biggest fools in the world as we walked off from billions of dollars for a country that we had control of for about 2,500 peacekeepers, just like Korea from the 50s and many other places we've kept peacekeepers. It's a small price it's a small price to pay not to destabilize the Middle East or Europe. We just proved to the Russians that we would run, and we looked weak. And now the guy behind me that looks like he's passing gas, he's passing America into a spin that makes Afghanistan look like child's play. We look weak, and we are. Our borders are open. Inflation's up. Today, I paid $10.99 for a case of Coke that I paid $5.99 for in the same store when Trump was in office. $79 to fill up my truck, $30, $40 every trip. Who's all you average people think that he's building back better? There ain't shit on store shelves. There ain't nothing. There's no cars to sell or buy. The economy sucks, and Russia's about to destabilize Europe, and we're going to see a loss of wealth and an instability in the world like you've never seen because of Mr. Dumbass behind me. I swear, this is what we look like. See if I can get that to the rest of the world. I can't get that in the right size this second. Look, this is what we look like to the rest of the world. It's what we look like. Hey, look at us here. We're letting everybody in, and we're just great. This is a bunch of crap. This guy is so dang clueless. He's going to get us all killed. Yeah, I don't know if he knows that or not. But boy, people, y'all better think about this. We better quit being in groups and quit worrying about our color and being equal for this and being equal for that. He just said he was picking a Supreme Court justice because he was only going to pick somebody who was black and a woman. How sad. I wish he'd have said he's going to pick the most qualified judge out there. But if they were really qualified and they weren't black and they weren't a woman, he didn't consider her. I want you to think about that. If you were a person who supported the civil rights movement and believed what Dr. King said, that the content of someone's character is more important than the color of their skin, then why would you choose sex that we're born into and a color that we all have? We all have some pigment of some kind in the spectrum in our skin. We're not given the choice of being born with no color. So if those were the two deciding factors from which he chose a group, he failed as an American, and certainly he must have failed in the eyes of Dr. King. Watch the TV today. Don't be in a group. unless that group is the American group. It's okay if you're black, white, Asian. I don't care what spectrum you are, as white as somebody from Antarctica and as black as somebody from the depths of Kenya. No matter what you are, I think we ought to concentrate on all being either an American or you're not an American. Isn't that the only group that's going to save us all? I mean, really, I mean, it's become so decisive. Do we know where we belong? Well, I belong with the flag, the stars and bars behind me. And if I've got to pick a group and he's going to make me pick one, I pick America as the group I want to be a part of. I hope you'll think about that. It's okay to be whatever color you're born. It's okay to be whatever sex you are. It's okay to speak whatever language you speak. Or other things that you could choose or not choose that are just DNA. But you can choose to care about America. You can choose to see what's happened to the rest of the world who is not America and know it's that important. And with that, we'll roll into the regular old county bullshit. I don't even know where to get started at today, really, kind of, because these guys are a bunch of fools. But based on the history lesson that Biden doesn't know about America, I'm going to give you a history lesson. A long time ago, pretty much, Walton County back in the 80s was a sleepy little place with 30A and Seagrove Beach and Sandestin, and that's about it. And they rolled up the sidewalk at parts of the year. And in the 80s, everything was cool around here. In fact, this could have been an event at a local beach. And this is how the government was run. The government had had the same county attorney since 1968. And Quinn McMillan was the sheriff. So we had George Ralph Miller as the county attorney from 1968 for about, I don't know, 30 years or whatever it was. We had Quinn McMillan run the sheriff department. It was full of young deputies. And some of them young deputies were Mr. Barker, Mr. Glidewell, and Mr. McCormick. The two short guys on the end, they weren't part of that. And George Ralph once told me to my face at a meeting where I tried to bring up the state law when he was still the county attorney a long time ago in the 90s. I was a young officer in the Air Force, and I tried to discuss the law that I wanted to discuss at a BCC meeting, and he grinned at me and he said, "Look here, young man," because he didn't know who I was then. Nobody did. I was just some kid. And I said, "Doesn't this matter?" He said, "There's two kinds of law in Walton County. There was Quinn law, Quinn McMillan, the sheriff, and there was George Ralph law. And he was George Ralph." And with that, he grinned and walked out the door. And you know what? That's probably the most truthful thing the man ever said to me, because it was. But these three young men behind you grew up under the leadership of a sheriff who decided which laws mattered and which laws didn't in a sleepy little tourist town. And that's the way it was. They didn't work anywhere else. And guess who else was involved in that? The new director, Mr. Corman. I'm not sure I have his picture available yet, but it's going to come. So folks, there's some common things we have here. Basically, your government is run by law enforcement. This law enforcement person right here, he basically got rid of the Center 3 law enforcement people here. Boots became a bailiff and had been the head detective. Head detective, isn't that funny, Boots? And then Danny had had a jail inspection when he ran the jail, and the jail was in the BCC. Old Scott Brannon and was the chair of the BCC. You remember Mr. Brannon? This guy who's helping us out. Him and his buddy Clay schemed up to have Mike Atkinson, our lovely sheriff, do an investigation on the center man in the screen, Mr. Glidewell, of how he was running the jail. And we've got a copy of the report, and basically it sucks. So Danny retired. And Mr. Barker had just had issues. It seemed to be that he can't think with the right head, and he's so retired, as I understand. Barker had never been to meetings. Boots had never been to meetings. And Barker has recently said that we should trust him. Hell, Mike, you haven't done nothing you said you would do. And after you were thrown out on your ear, and remember that election guide I wrote, that all those awful things about the people's ass you kiss now, Mike? You said they were all true. Go read your text, Mike. You said it was the truest thing you'd ever seen written. Well, if that's the case, you just joined right in, because now you're part of the crew. Now, how Tony Corman became the chief of code enforcement is a mystery. Nobody knows. Nobody saw the advertisement. We're not sure how and who hired him. May have been Larry Jones, but the word on the street was secretly it was these guys that wanted Tony Corman. And Corman has now hired another deputy as his assistant. So basically, we have a bunch of local cops, deputies, who all at some point have animosity toward each other, or the dirt on each other, or have hired and fired each other, or taken each other's jobs, or been demoted together. And now they're hiring those same people to run our $20 billion worth of real estate. And this sucker's out of control. They can't handle their staff. They've never done what they said. And we got a mess here. And how can we as a country wonder what is wrong when we let crap like this go unaccounted? Now, these are former cops. The Sandestin water violations, they all know about it. They know their engineers been using the wrong standard. They know some of their staff has sat there and lied. They've been passing lists. You know, the Sheriff Atkinson he just said he wasn't aware of the list, but I have it, Mike, and you won't deny it. Mike, why don't you arrest me or sue me from the Sheriff's Department? And you and Graham Fountain tried one time before. Why don't you sue me for slander for me saying that your Sheriff's Department and the administration of the BCC put citizens on lists for some kind of special treatment? We know how special it was, Mike, because I was one of them, without any due process. And you say you don't know about it, but it sits in your email. That's what's wrong with this place. You hired this unqualified guy, and all these deputies who grew up under those less than let's choose which laws we enforce sheriffs. And when the county was run like three-wheelers were, dangerous and loose, that's who's running your county, people. I hope the people of Miramar will come up with a great candidate, and I hope you'll see what's going on. I'll cover that election guide and stuff, but these people right behind you, Tony's been trying a little bit lately. Here's your cookie, Tony, for trying. But you shut up too long, and you still know more about Sandestin, Tony, than you're saying, and you know it. But Barker, you hadn't done a damn thing but join right back into the club that you got thrown out of, just like Boots. And Danny, all the words that you said for 10 years and I supported you, that's a bunch of BS. And Tony Corman, your picture ain't up there, but we know why they put you as a temporary administrator, because you're trying to cover up all the lies and lawsuits from code. You remember these three guys right here hired Clay? All of them did, except Tony Anderson did not vote to hire this guy. Remember him? He is running this whole county as the interim attorney. He's picked your whole legal department. Because think about this, in a recent case, somebody in the county had to either be Trey Nick, the board, or Clay Atkinson, paid a law firm to ask a county judge not to say what a standard is, because the public didn't need to know. Why didn't the public need to know what the Sandestin water quality standard was? Because then the public would know that these 4 or 5 people behind us are letting the staff break the laws, and they're still approving all the projects under those broken laws. They've become the law and above the law. And sooner or later, that all catches up to you, just like 47 years of politics did for this guy. We're all screwed. Where's all the Build Back Better? we are in a pickle. Nobody likes $80 a gallon fuel and the extra $50 every time you go to the supermarket, and to watch your fortunes be blown away and lost in seconds because this guy wants to make personal fortunes. It's crazy what's going on, and we got to take back America. It's 27 February. This is Alan Osborne. And let's start by holding these fools accountable local. And let's pray something happens better in America and we don't have World War III. You keep it straight out there. You hear?